My name is Shauna. My husband Kenny and I are the parents to two sweet boys. When I was pregnant with our second son, we found out at 18 weeks gestation that he had a birth defect called Omphalocele. The doctor said it was large and contained his liver, bowel, and partial stomach. We learned that Omphalocele happens 1 in 5,000 live births, and there is no known cause. We also found out he had congenital heart disease. He was born with an ASD and a large VSD, 2 holes in his heart. We were terrified but prepared ourselves the best we could for his arrival. Thankfully, he didn't decide to come early. I had my planned cesarean on November 13th, 2015, at 38 weeks, 6 days. The day he was born was the scariest day of our lives. The NICU team was in the OR ready for his arrival. We heard 2 faint cries, and then they immediately started working on him. He weighed 6 pounds 11 ounces, and he was beautiful. We named him Boone, meaning a blessing, and he looked like his big brother. He was a very sick baby. We were prepared for his Omphalocele and his heart defects, but we weren't prepared for his lungs being as bad as they were. Due to his large Omphalocele, his lungs and chest cavity didn't develop properly. They were long and narrow, and he couldn't breathe on his own. So we stayed by his side every single day on this NICU roller coaster. At 3 days old, I held him for the first time. Daddy gave him lots of pep talks and read him books every day. I sang "You Are My Sunshine" to him. We didn't know what the outcome would be, but we had hope that he just needed time to grow. We stood by him and fought with him and prayed like crazy. We knew as his parents our job was to make the hard decisions to make sure he was given every possible chance at life and to love him. Being a parent thrown into this situation feels impossible. There was so much I couldn't control or do for my baby. It was hard for me to watch someone else change my baby's diaper and do all the things I was supposed to do. Every day was terrifying, not knowing what was going to happen. We had an amazing team of doctors, nurses, and respiratory therapists by our side the entire journey. His nurses helped us through the trenches, answering our every question, listening to our every worry. They were a shoulder to cry on and often cried with us. They let us change his diapers, take his temperature, do his trach care, change his dressing on his Omphalocele every day, and they let us hold him as much as possible because they knew how much it meant to us. They even broke a rule for us and let Boone's 2-year-old big brother come in and meet him. Boone underwent 6 surgical procedures, including a tracheostomy, a thoracotomy using a catheter to close the ASD in his heart, an exploratory surgery on his Omphalocele to find and fix a blockage in his intestines, which resulted in an ostomy. He had to be medically paralyzed and sedated multiple times to give his body a rest. He developed severe pulmonary hypertension and had countless episodes where he would clamp down and his sats would drop very fast and he would turn blue. One of those episodes still haunts me. He turned almost black within seconds and his body went limp because he passed out. His nurse bagged him immediately and he came back up. His life was saved over and over by our nurses, doctors, and RTs. On May 6, 2016, at 176 days old, 1 week shy of turning 6 months, Boone told us he was tired and couldn't fight any longer. At this point, he was on 100% oxygen on his ventilator, and I knew his doctors had done everything possible. That morning I held him, and while he had another episode in my arms and required a dose of paralytic, I told him it was okay. I told him I was so proud of him, and he will always be with us. After watching my baby struggle to breathe every day of his life, I didn't want him to suffer any longer. We were preparing to make the impossible decision to let him go and carry the pain for the rest of our lives. He and God decided to make that decision for us so we wouldn't have to. He waited until Daddy could get to the hospital, and Daddy gave him one last pep talk. Almost immediately after they put him in Daddy's arms, with us both there loving on him and telling him how proud of him we are, he closed his eyes and peacefully let go, and God called him home. We were surrounded by his doctors and nurses, and some even rushed to the hospital to see us. We were able to spend several hours with him, and they let us take him to the funeral home. So we bathed him, dressed him, and I swaddled him for the first time. I carried him into that hospital, and I carried him out. There were 19 people from the hospital at his funeral service, which meant so much to us. Our journey with Boone has been difficult but full of love. Boone was incredible and the sweetest baby. He was the strongest person I've ever met. He gave us so much love and joy through all the struggle. He would light up when he heard Daddy or Mommy's voice. His smile and spirit lit up the room. He would stare me down like he couldn't take his eyes off of me, even when nurses were changing the dressing on a line or drawing blood. And every time I held him, he knew I was home to him, and he would fall fast asleep. Boone touched more lives than I will ever know. Since he passed, I have received many messages from people telling me how he changed them or renewed their faith. Nurses and doctors told me he changed their life and changed how they will care for other babies. I know in my heart that Boone fulfilled God's purpose in his short life. Our sweet baby taught us so much about faith, life, strength, and love. We are forever changed and so proud that he is ours.